And now joining Andy Ari On3 is Dia Bell, 5-star quarterback out of Fort Lauderdale, but you're really out of Phoenix, right?
Yeah, I was born in Phoenix.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm assuming that you do, but his father was a childhood idol of mine, Phoenix son, Raja Bell. I grew up in Phoenix. You're born in Phoenix, so what do you think is nicer, Florida or Scottsdale?
Weather-wise, I'd say I like Scottsdale a little bit more in Arizona than Florida, because Florida's a little unpredictable. But
yeah, that's the right answer, by the way. Yeah, Scottsdale's the place. That's one day we're moving back there. So, what's it like playing in these tournaments and these events and getting to showcase your talents?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity, other than actually playing and getting a feel when you're in the off season, just to meet new people. I mean, a lot of people come to these tournaments from all over the country. I mean, it's a great recruiting opportunity for me being committed. So I mean, there's a bunch of things that go into it, but it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. So the thing that I think is really interesting is that your dad obviously was very good at basketball. I'm assuming that you get this a lot. How did you find football, and what's it been like, being in a household with somebody who reached the highest level athletically, just in a different sport?
I mean, I grew up playing football and basketball. I mean, I've tried everything because my mom played soccer too, so I played all of it. I really found my love for football when COVID came around. We couldn't get in basketball gyms anymore, couldn't be in condensed spaces, and I told my dad, I was like, this is something I really want to do, and he was fully supportive of it. I mean, he probably felt some type of way a little bit, but fully supportive, has always helped me through this entire process. Obviously, like you said, with him being playing at the highest level, he's always helped me through all the recruiting process and everything from NIL to just knowing what coaches are best for me.
Yeah, and it's like an interesting thing because, sports are sports, right?
Yeah.
And your dad was a professional athlete at the highest level. Whether or not it's the same exact game, I'm assuming that he helped you understand the business side of things, right? Like what you need to do in your own personal time, the effort that it takes to go into it, the pressure of performing on the what's it like just having a consummate professional guiding you?
I mean, I've always looked up to him because I have no older siblings. I'm the oldest, so my idol was always him. I watched how hard he worked to get to where he is today, and I've heard all the stories. So I try to emulate with me, because I might have a better opportunity than he did when he was younger, but I still like to act like I'm in that situation, so I never lose my hunger for what I'm doing.
So you've been committed to Texas, and that's a pretty big-time place. Was the color scheme of the Suns an influence on the color scheme of that you were going?
No.
Is anyone
That's funny. No, it's not. My thing with Texas was, I mean, they obviously have a great offense, it's pro style, definitely NFL ready, and they also have a great track record with Coach Sark and Coach Midway at quarterbacks. So I felt like if I could play for them, I'd get the best development needed to get to the next level that I want to be at, but also just the relationship I built with both of those coaches and the entire coaching staff was a big deal.
Texas is fascinating for a lot of reasons. One, they're on the ascension as a program, right?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of every year, knocking on the door of winning a national championship, and they also have the most hyped prospect in the history of recruiting going into his first year starting this year.
Yeah.
Like, what's it like to, as a person and a future steward of that program, watch its development, watch what they're going through now, and even how they've handled Arch and what's ahead for him, I should say. Sorry.
It's been great. I mean, obviously, like you said, I've been able to watch Arch grow in that offense with me coming up and visiting and watching them practice, and they coach really hard. That's what they do, and they get the best out of you. And Arch has grown a lot, and their entire team has grown a lot with the coaching staff. And like you said, we're always knocking on the door now, and hopefully this year is the year we come on top.
The handling of Arch, I think, is interesting because he hasn't even really played yet. Yet he's this super famous guy, huge NIL deals, all the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think Texas has done, like, from a professionalism standpoint of just, like, helping him along in a pretty uncomfortable and probably tough situation?
Yeah, I feel like they've done a great job. I mean, obviously, like you saw, like they didn't play him much, and I feel like that was loyalty towards Quinn they had before, and they're going to be loyal to him as he's a starter as well. So that's always a big thing. They've been great with developing quarterbacks that don't usually hit the portal, so he's not going to have a problem with that at all. So they're really dedicated to the person they have that's leading this team and leading that room of quarterbacks. So they've done a great job with it.
I'm assuming that you have thought a lot about like what it's going to be like for you in the future when you're in his position that he's in now, going into the next phase of things, and when it becomes your program.
Yeah.
Let's assume that Arch Manning is awesome. He goes on to win the Heisman as the #1 overall pick. Have you put yourself in a position of that's going to be the expectations that I have to fill, as if the expectations at Texas aren't already high enough?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really even think of it like that. I mean, now you say that, my plan was always to come in, whether or not he stayed an extra year or not, was to come in and compete to the best of my ability and learn as much as I possibly could, to be prepared to play whether I do or not. I want to be where I need to be if I am starting or if I'm not, and just ready to play.
Can you tell this podcast world what it's just like to be a 5-star quarterback in today's age? I mean, like, forget like where you're going, where you're visiting, where you visited, all that stuff, but like, what's it just been like on a daily basis for you to go through this process with the NIL stuff, with the visiting, the pressure? It's a business now. You have a dad who's played in the NBA. You're very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot that goes into it. I mean, my dad has definitely helped out a lot in that space because he's able to give me all the advice that I need to keep my head level. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you're a 5-star quarterback, you got a lot of people that look up to you, so you got to uphold yourself to a different standard. And as long as I know that as long as I take care of what's to do on the field, everything outside of that will come.
Yeah. Was it hard still going through this? You know, I know it's probably a little bit easier now that you've made your decision, but is it hard when you have money being thrown at you and you have big-time programs wanting you? I mean, they're all really great. Ohio State, Alabama, Texas. You know, you can't really go wrong when you start. But like, how do you even parse through that?
You know, I mean, you try and take as much visits as you possibly can to get a feel for who you feel most comfortable with and who you think can get the best out of you. And I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, it's really hard now that they have money that they can throw at you. You got to choose whether or not you want to take as much money as you can now, or if you want to go somewhere where you'll still get a good amount of money, and get the development that you need to get to where you ultimately want to be, which is the NFL. So there's a lot to
How much do you think during your recruitment, you know, being a teenager still and going through this process, did you have to think about money?
Honestly, my dad and my agent took a big part in that, so I didn't really have to worry about it as much. A shout out to them. But so I could just focus on mainly playing football and being a teenager, like you said. And
like when I was a teenager, all I cared about was going to a place that I wanted to go to school with my friends.
Really? Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I assume that, like, even though you guys are high-profile athletes who are being interviewed, you know, that like you also, there's an element to you like, I want to go where I want to go, where I want to have fun, where I can be me. And like, I feel like that used to be 80% of it, and now it might be 30% of it.
Yeah.
And maybe coming from a family that's already gone through this helps, but I've always wondered, like, how can you just be a kid when you have to make a business decision?
Unfortunately, at this point, for us, it's been that we had to grow up a little bit and mature a little bit earlier. I mean, but that's the world we live in now, and we got to adapt. But, I mean, for me, I was still able to pick a place where I know a bunch of people, and I'm friends with a lot of people, like KJ Lacey, I'm great friends with. Jamie French is from the same state as me. We know each other very well. And then all those guys in 25 class, I've met them on my visits and stuff like that. So I'm real close with them. So I'm still able to pick a school that I know a lot of people and feel really comfortable at.
You know what I think is interesting? In college football, for so many years, it was taboo to talk about money.
Yeah.
It was taboo. It was against the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that as a society, we've been brainwashed into thinking that if a kid wants money, that he's a bad kid or that he's not good at football. All the things that go into that sort of thing. But now it's okay, as it should be. But people are still afraid to talk about it openly. Why do you think that is? And do you think that it's just going to take time, or like what? Why can't a kid like yourself be like, you know what, they offered me the best compensation package, and this is why I like them for X, Y, and Z? Why is everybody so afraid to openly discuss it, you think?
I mean, everybody has their own situations. For me, luckily, I grew up well off. I didn't have to worry too much about money. But for kids that are just trying to get their families out of tough situations that they've grown up in, I mean, money's a big thing in their recruitment. So I think people are a little bit scared because you might not be picking the school that will ultimately get you where you want to go, and they're just thinking short term.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, everybody comes from a different situation, and they had to pick what's best for them.
But why is it so bad to talk about it?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, that's just I guess, like I said, for us having to adapt to be more mature at this age, I guess more people are going to have to adapt to that as well.
Yeah. So you said that your dad at the beginning of this pod told you some stories that you helped learn from. Do you have any off the top of your head you can share with us?
I mean, I know a bunch. I mean, as when he was young, he was born in St. Croix, moved to Miami. And with basketball, when he was growing up, it was always he had a chip on his shoulder. He was always trying to pick out the best people in the area, or best people that were going to be in the area, and that was his kind of kill list, to say so. He wants to go out and dominate those guys and show why he should be who he is, and that's the same thing for me. When I get out here, or if I get in a real game, or if I go to a camp and there's top quarterbacks like me, I want to go out there and show why I'm actually the number one quarterback.
Okay, so everybody thinks that Texas is Arch Manning's program. He's next in line. Why don't you give your Longhorn Nation a little bit of a preview of what's to come? Or you're the guy, right?
Yeah.
It's not Arch, you're the guy.
Yeah. Soon,
maybe both.
It will be my time eventually, but you just know that I'm coming to put the work in. I'm coming to uphold the standard and win us national championships. So that's what y'all can expect from me.
I really appreciate you, Dia. Thank you so much for joining me, man. Thanks.